Joseph? Joseph, I'm coming in. Joseph! Are you speed dueling again?
No, I can explain. No, it's not what it looks like.
It's been 3 months and you've already relapsed.
But they just released Serpent Knight Dragon.
Serpent Knight Dragon? Okay.
Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, back again with another episode of 10 Minute Testing. It's been a few months, 2 to be exact, since we took a look at speed duels. I still love the format and play it religiously IRL, but there's really only so many times I can show off Gravekeepers and Relinquished before the algorithm comes for my throat. Thankfully, Konami has released 2 amazing products at the same time, for some reason. A new starter featuring Weevil and Rex, and a new pack featuring Bandit, Keith, and Pals. There's a ton in these sets that will undoubtedly find a home in existing decks, kickstart new strategies, and generally upend the metagame. Let's see what's playable on this month's Speed Duel Monthly. Our first deck is Serpent Knight Dragon. I hate to save the best for first, but truthfully I just cannot wait to talk about what's quickly becoming my favorite deck to dunk on Dark Magician dueling bookers. This deck exists because of a build-around Rex Raptor skill, Nightmare Sonic Blast. It can be activated every turn you control Serpent Knight Dragon, and allows you to excavate 4 cards off the top of your deck. If you reveal 1 monster, you can add one of the cards to your hand. If you reveal 2 monsters, you can destroy a card your opponent controls. And if you reveal 3 or more monsters, you can do both. This payoff is so insane in a format that currently lacks, well, basically any single target removal whatsoever, that it justifies playing a card as miserable as Serpent Knight Dragon. We're playing as many monsters as possible to repeatedly trigger the 3+ effect, alongside a small suite of spells and traps aimed at turboing out our twisty boy and providing a payoff to placing a card in our hand. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First is Serpent Knight Dragon, a 7-star 2350 attack monster. I can't believe anyone ever thought this was okay to print. A fun bit of trivia is that it's meant to be a knight's soul transformed into a beast, but they spell night like a late evening in the card text. After that is Blue Dragon Summoner. I'm more confident searching SND with this card rather than risk ruining Rex's skill with Summoner's Art, and 3 Double Costin, 2 tributes for the Terror. We're on a hand trap suite of 3 Gentlemander, who occasionally marauding locks our opponent, but mostly buys us time, and 3 Sphere Karibo. After that we have spells, 3 Tribute Doll to special the Serpent, and traps, 2 Champion's Vigilance, mostly there to add upside to the Excavate effect and prevent an insectile end via the new Weevil skill. So with that, let's jump into a game. Our match is up against Dinosaur. Somehow we've found the only meta deck that plays single target monster removal. Unfortunate! Oh well, we're going to have to play around Order to Charge as best we can. We're going second, which is great news. It gives us 1 extra chance to find Serpent Knight Dragon, and of course we don't. You'll have to ignore the copy of Twin-Headed Behemoth in my hand. I made this build before I remembered Double Costin was legal. Our opponent's going to start by normal summoning... Oh god, what's the... Kabazowls? Please don't correct my pronunciation in the comments section. For turn, we draw another card that is not Serpent Knight Dragon. Although Gentlemander is one of the best possible things we could draw, now we have the lock set up. That should buy us a fair amount of time, or at least prompt an order to charge from our opponent. On our opponent's turn, they're going to set the remainder of their hand, then normal summon a Crawling Dragon number 2. They'll proceed to battle phase. Of course, Twin-Headed Behemoth comes back at end phase. He's meant to be used as tribute fodder, but pales in comparison to Double Costin. They'll attack directly, we'll special summon 1 Gentlemander, and they elect to end the battle phase there. They're afraid of the lock, but I could just normal summon the second one. We're going to special summon back this copy of Twin-Headed Behemoth at end phase. We draw another Sphere Karibo. Excellent. I suppose we'll just pass it back to our opponent and hope for the best. Thankfully, the best is yet to come. They'll go to battle phase, we'll special summon a copy of Gentlemander, and then explain to them in chat how exactly the lock functions. Okay, you can't do that, I'm so sorry. Anyway, it's our turn. For turn we draw? Oh, there it is, thank goodness. So the first thing we're going to do, of course, is tribute a couple of our monsters to normal summon a copy of Serpent Knight Dragon. Our opponent reveals an Order to Charge. Or, eventually, an Order to Charge. Thankfully, we do have the Champion's Vigilance at the ready, so we'll be able to negate it. Afterwards, going to activate our skill, Nightmare Sonic Blast. We're going to find off the top 1, 2, 3 monsters. This allows us to destroy one of our opponent's cards. I'm not aiming for back row because, of course, Security Orb is both legal and exceptionally playable. We're going to add a copy of Tribute Doll to the top of our deck so that we're drawing it for the first card next turn and destroying our opponent's Cabazals. Afterwards, we're going to pass it back. I'm not looking to get into a battle phase war with a deck that plays so many battle traps. Our opponent's going to normal summon a copy of Twin-Headed King Rex and then activate a second order to charge. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to prevent that from happening, and our Serpent of Night Dragon is not long for the world. They'll attack into our remaining copy of Gentlemander, and things are looking grim. For turn, we draw a copy of Tribute Doll. Remember, we stacked it to the top. As long as we're not dead this turn, we might be able to get back into the game. We'll set a copy of Blue Dragon Summoner and dare our opponent to OTK. They're going to, of course, draw a Cabazals off the top, but we do have a couple of Sphere Karibos should we decide we're in mortal danger. They'll attack into our copy of Blue Dragon Summoner. We're going to trigger the effect in order to get a copy of Serpent Night Dragon from our deck, and of course we can tribute the Sphere Karibos with the Tribute Doll should we need to. After they deal a fair amount of damage to our life points, they'll pass it back, and we rip off the top a Twin-Headed Behemoth. Excellent. We'll normal summon that, activate Tribute Doll so we don't waste our precious hand traps, and activate the effect of Nightmare Sonic Blast once again. Let's see how many we get. 0, 0, 1, 2. Well, it's not optimal, but we can stack those cards in such a way that we are able to draw one of the spells and activate the 3+ next turn. We'll destroy our opponent's Cabazals again, and of course their Crawling Dragon doesn't stand up to our Serpent Night Dragon, so I feel comfortable just passing. They're going to set a card, and then pass it back to us once again. We draw Champion's Vigilance, and from this position, the game looks just about over. We're going to activate the effect of Nightmare Sonic Blast once again. God, plussing so hard over the course of this duel. This time, thankfully, we do find 3, so we'll add a copy of Blue Dragon Summoner to hand and destroy our opponent's last remaining monster. After that, we're going to normal summon this copy of Blue Dragon Summoner and try and get the beats in. We'll get in for 0. Okay, well, Windstorm of Ataqua was always going to be activated at some point during this game. I'm just happy to get it out of our opponent's back row. Our opponent draws for turn, realizes they haven't drawn anything particularly relevant. Heatwave not good at this stage in the game, and passes it back. We draw a copy of Tribute Doll, but at this point all we're doing is activating the effect of Nightmare Sonic Blast every turn. We find 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my goodness. We'll add one of them to hand, and of course, in an attempt not to hit a copy of Security Orb, we're going to hit our opponent's field spell. We'll go ahead and get rid of that Jurassic World, and then start attacking directly afterwards. We'll get in for, well, a reasonable amount of damage at very least, 1,500, and then of course our Nightmare Serpent Dragon will be kunai'd with Chain. We know the remaining card is a kunai with Chain because of our opponent's misplay earlier, but that should be enough. They're going to go ahead and normal summon a copy of Crawling Dragon number 2 and attack. Unfortunately for our opponent, we do have hand traps remaining, a ton of them in fact, so we'll switch it to defense position. For turn, we draw a copy of Serpent Night Dragon, and this should be the end of the game. We'll switch both of our monsters to attack, normal summon a copy of Gentlemander, and go to battle phase. We'll attack into the Crawling Dragon, attack directly with Serpent Night Dragon, and when they activate their copy of Kunai with Chain, we'll negate it with our set Champion's Vigilance. With that, we have finally won this game. Our second deck is, surprise surprise, Gravekeepers. Undeniably the best deck from the previous format, they were one of the many decks making use of It's My Lucky Day, a skill that enabled conditional Regekis and heavy Storm Dusters for the cost of 1,000 life points. However, a new generic skill has been born, and unlike Lucky Day, it's got no associated cost and is repeatable. Hidden Parasite turns all face-up monsters into insects until the end of the turn, and can be activated twice, meaning we're now able to play 2 Dark Holes in a 20-card format. Gravekeeper is in a unique position to both use the ability effectively, as it doesn't have allegiance to any skills, and avoid being blown out by it by keeping recruiters set and preventing OTKs with Rite of Spirit. Theoretically, a simple substitution should cement them right back atop the standings. So with that, let's get into the card by card. For monsters, we're on 3 Gravekeeper's Ambusher, 3 Gravekeeper's Recruiter, and 1 of both Oracle and Assailant. For spells, we're on 3 Eradicating Aerosol. Shame we don't get the God print in America. And for traps, we're on the same 9 disruption spells we were playing last format. 3 Kunai, 3 Rite of Spirit, and 3 Windstorm. These are, of course, highly flexible. If you aren't seeing many of the newly printed decks being played, meaning Ready for Intercepting is amazing, and if you absolutely need to destroy spells and traps in the absence of your Dice Foons for 5, you can sub in a couple of copies of Dust Tornado. So with that, let's jump into a game. Our match is up against the deck we were just piloting, Serpent Night Dragon. Unfortunately for our opponent, Our build of the deck is better than theirs. We're going second, which is great news. Better news is that this should be a particularly good matchup for us. Eradicating Aerosol is fantastic against decks that require a very specific monster on board. You can see there's a ready for intercepting in our main deck. All I was seeing on Dueling Book was Blade Knight decks. Can you blame me? Our opponent's going to set 2 cards and pass it back to us. We don't have any offensive pressure, so I think we can get away with setting 2 cards and passing it back to them. For turn, they draw off the top a Tribute Doll. Are you kidding me? They're going to tribute their copy of Twin-Headed Behemoth to special summon a copy of Serpent Knight Dragon. See, this is why you have to get off Twin-Headed Behemoth and onto Double Costin. They wouldn't even have needed the Tribute Doll. They're then going to activate Nightmare Sonic Blast and find off the top not 1, but 2, and just 2 cards. This means they're able to pop one of my set cards, and unfortunately I can't respond because it is a skill, and skills can't be responded to. But fortunately for us, that Windstorm of Atakwa wouldn't have done anything anyway. Our opponent can't attack because the monster was summoned off of Tribute Doll. They're going to attempt to anyway, and I'll have to explain to them exactly how Tribute Doll works. Afterwards, they're going to pass it back to us, and we really need something to do right about now. Thankfully, we find it. A Gravekeeper's Ambusher off the top is just what the doctor ordered, and first we're going to activate Hidden Parasite so we can fire off this Eradicating Aerosol and rid this Serpent Knight Dragon of its mortal coil. Afterwards, we're going to normal summon a copy of Gravekeeper's Ambusher, set a card, and proceed to battle phase. We do 1,700 points of damage to our opponent, putting them well within lethal range for Gravekeeper's Oracle. They're going to draw a card, set a card, and pass it back to us. For turn, we draw Ready for Intercepting. Very dead in this matchup, but still might find some use. We're going to Tribute Summon a copy of Gravekeeper's Oracle, and when was the last time you saw the attack boost effect activated? Thankfully for us, it puts us 50 points over Serpent Knight Dragon, should one make it back onto the board. We'll attack directly, prompting a copy of Windstorm from our opponent. Thankfully, we can activate this Rite of Spirit to do a fair amount of damage to their life points, and dare them to draw an out. It's very hard to reborn a Serpent Knight Dragon if you don't have the resources to do so, and it looks to me like our opponent doesn't. Finally, a Rex and Weevil archetype discussion wouldn't be complete without one of the most beloved decks of the Duel Links era, Unga Bunga Dino. Potentially one of the first playable field spell decks, this deck pairs Jurassic World with some of the silliest named vanillas since Buku. They're included alongside early Duel Links format staple Order to Charge in order to make use of monsters locked under Blast Sphere or whose attack has been shredded by Gravekeeper's Oracle. Hopefully we'll be able to draw enough donkuses to send our opponents to the Stone Age while using as few brain cells as possible. So with that, let's get into the card by card. Almost nothing to say here. 3 Cabazals, 3 Twin-Headed King Rex, 3 Crawling Dragon number 2, who has the exact same attack points as Crawling Dragon, by the way, and 3 Order to Charge. We've got a trap suite of 3 Kunai, 3 Windstorm, and 2 Dust Tornado. Notably, we're not playing Heatwave main. I think it suffers from the same problems as it does in the TCG. It's not particularly good past turn 1, and it doesn't prevent your opponent from setting. That's pretty bad when the literal best play in the format is Set Recruiter Pass. So with that, let's jump into a game. Our match is up against Blade Knight Good Stuff, a deck playing a lot of the same cards we are, things like Cabazals and Big Dino Beaters, alongside Blade Knight, Blast Sphere, and Hyper Hammerhead. Unfortunately for us, our field spell is reciprocal. It's going to buff their monsters. They get to play Hidden Parasite. That's the payoff! 2 skills. This is unfair. Well, the first thing they're going to do is set 2 cards and normal summon a Blade Knight. Nothing in our deck can defeat a monster with an attack stat that large. We're going to go ahead and normal summon a copy of Cabazals and set 3 cards, daring our opponent to normal summon. They will do just that. The first thing they're going to do is normal summon a copy of Hyper Hammerhead, and wow, this is a hugely problematic card for our playstyle. For turn, we draw a copy of Dust Tornado. I'm going to do what's called a pro-gamer move, and main phase a Windstorm of Atakwa. Blade Knight's defensive stat is nothing to be afraid of, so we'll set a card and go to battle phase, prompting a Windstorm of our opponents. Okay, trading Windstorms isn't that bad, especially when our opponent is up on monsters. They're about to be very up on monsters, however, because one of the remaining cards in their hand is Blade Knight number 2. Yikes, with 0 cards in hand, those have huge attack stats. This is going to prompt a Windstorm of Atakwa for me once they enter the battle phase. Hopefully, we'll be able to attack this time, and getting rid of our opponent's Blade Knights would really come in handy. For turn, we draw a copy of Cabazals. That's great. It means we're going to be able to normal summon it, and provided they don't have a Windstorm set, we should be able to get away with at least 1 Blade Knight death. We'll attack into a Blade Knight. They will activate a Spellbinding Circle. Shoot, this card is going to prevent our monster from attacking, but we have an Order to Charge set, which is perfect. We're going to attack into this Blade Knight, eat 1, and pass it back to our opponent. For turn, they draw, a pretty irrelevant card, looks like. They'll switch a Blade Knight to attack position so that it can, actually not die to our Cabazal's attack, and then pass it back. We'll Dust Tornado the set card, which I expect is a Kunai. It's a Metal Morph, which is effectively the same thing. We draw another Dust Tornado. We're going to go directly to battle phase and attack into this copy of Blade Knight. Then, in damage step, activate the effect of our own Kunai. That's going to eat our opponent's remaining monster, and now we are firmly in the driver's seat. Our opponent will draw for turn. Unfortunately for us, they do have relevant plays. They're going to set a card and a spell or trap before passing it back to us. We draw a copy of Kunai. We're going to set a copy of Dust Tornado. They're going to activate Dust Tornado on our Dust Tornado. Well, we could have lost something more important. And then we'll attack into their set monster. Unfortunately for us, that set monster is a Yomi ship, which is going to destroy our last remaining monster that can attack. We do still have an order available in case they do anything screwy. They're going to go ahead and pass it back to us. For turn, we draw, thank goodness, a Crawling Dragon number 2. I've never been more happy to see a card this ugly. We'll normal summon it and go to battle phase, attacking into the Hyper Hammerhead. At end of damage step, it's going to return this copy of Crawling Dragon to the hand. That's not a big deal because we have a defender on our board. Our opponent's going to go ahead and activate Hidden Parasite and then Eradicating Aerosol. This seems like a pretty proactive use of it. I think I would have waited until I normal summoned to the Crawling Dragon again. It's not like I can attack with it. They're aiming to get some damage in with Hyper Hammerhead, which I am more than happy to take, because I can just eat it with the Crawling Dragon they know I have. We draw Kunai with Chain, another card that protects our monsters. We'll attack into their Hyper Hammerhead with our copy of Crawling Dragon. We'll deal a little bit of damage to them, and then get our Crawling Dragon bounced. There is a non-0% chance we get OTK'd here, but it seems quite unlikely. They're going to set a card and pass it back to us. For turn, we draw a Windstorm of Ataqua, pretty dead at this point in the game. We're going to normal summon a copy of Crawling Dragon number 2 and get in for a fair amount of damage. Our opponent is now well within lethal. They are going to have to start doing things. They'll set a card and pass it back to us. We draw another copy of Crawling Dragon number 2. We're going to normal summon it and then move to battle phase. We'll attack into the set card, and what do you know? It's a Blast Sphere. Well, this is just about how we might actually lose the game. We'll attack directly with another Crawling Dragon number 2. They'll activate Kunai with Chain to turn it to defense position, and uh-oh, this is looking quite bad all of a sudden. Thankfully for turn, they draw a monster, summon it, turning on our copy of Order to charge, tributing the monster equipped with a Blast Sphere, and letting us know that the long nightmare is finally over. We are actually going to win this game. We'll switch Crawling Dragon number 2 to attack position and get in for lethal. So that's that. While I appreciate all of my viewers, a special thanks to my patrons, especially Michael Saumur, Distrin, Lucas Geardis, Adam Trevino, Second, Lieutenant Labcoat, Meepmoto27, Adrian Bra, Adam Sunquist, Isaac Jackson, and Donnie Fillerup. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/mbtygo every Monday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.